You didn't see that coming.
This is one of the worst deaths I've ever seen put to film. It's cheap, it's meaningless, it isn't earned. Quicksilver is introduced in Age of Ultron. He speaks a few lines, his screen time is usually relegated to silent, angry looks, and in an instant, he and his sister are redeemed, and he's...
You didn't see that coming.
The viewer feels no attachment to him. They know next to nothing about him, but Joss Whedon wanted someone to die to show, as he put it, the price of war. So in a hail of bullets that almost certainly could have been avoided by a character who had been avoiding them all film, Quicksilver passes away. His death was a tool, a means to an end, a development motive for Wanda. It meant nothing. So much so that Whedon actually filmed a version that left him alive, just in case Disney wanted to use the character again. He died for no and with no purpose. What I find striking about this is that just 2 Avengers films later, we'd see what I consider the right way to kill the character.
Iron Man.
I think there are 4 principles that go into a good film death when it comes to franchises. And I think Tony Stark's Endgame death typifies all of them. The first is loose ends. Marvel does an incredible job of turning Tony into someone that deserves a meaningful death. Tony and Cap's relationship has been rocky and eventually almost entirely destroyed, yet Endgame ties that relationship up with a neat bow, sending Cap and Tony back in time together as a team, with those differences becoming nothing more than part of a meaningless past.
You trust me? I do.
In that past, another loose end is tied up. Tony's struggle with his relationship with his deceased father. We see Tony face Howard, face that demon literally, and come away with solace and an understanding of a love he spent his life chasing in Vices. A moment that appears to give Tony peace in a way that we don't see across really any film he appears in up until that point. And in turn, he finds comfort in mentoring Peter, being his Howard Stark, if you will. He feels partially responsible for Peter's eventual death, and it's Tony who brings Peter back. It's Tony who saves Peter. If you're going to kill a character, the last thing you want to do is kill a character that hasn't completed their journey, or better yet, leaves behind unanswerable questions. Their story should feel complete. There should be no loose ends. Their death should answer those questions, not create more of them. Tie up loose ends. But this is a means to an end. It's principle 2, how he dies, that I find more compelling. Tony's death is an exercise in filming emotional climax. Nothing is an accident, or even implied. In the MCU, Tony is not a superhero like his more fantastical teammates. He isn't a god, he doesn't have super strength, he can't do, well, whatever you call this. He's an exceptional human being who builds exceptional things, and Cap and the rest of the MCU never fail to point that out.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
He is just human. So it's almost poetic that Tony dies suit on as the supreme being, a being more powerful than anyone in the universe. With that gauntlet on, Tony dies more of a superhero than any Avenger has ever been. He dies with every power you can fathom, the superhero we, the audience, always were meant to see him as. And he does this by literally trading his suit for the gauntlet, by trading a part of him to save the people he cares about. And he dies being super. He dies saving Peter, his wife, his friends. He dies making a sacrifice, a full circle moment that began in New York, a place they just so happened to visit earlier in the film. If you're going to kill a character, it should complete their arc. How they die should in some way inform their character. We should learn something about them through their death. It should be a defining moment. Tony's death, how it happens, the snap, shows us just how much he'll sacrifice. It shows us all this time later that Tony's nuke moment in New York wasn't a fluke. That he's a man, after everything he's seen, that knows what it means to be a hero. Even in his last moments, we learn something new about Tony. And then there's principle 3, and this one is where the Russos really built and brought to screen something I believe to be special.
Iron Man.
Killing a character in film, especially a main character in a franchise, is a decision to remove their physical presence from a narrative. And killing an integral piece of your narrative should be a monumental moment. But too many films create undignified deaths that don't feel resonant with the character they're killing. They don't get their hero moment. The moment where the audience cheers, where you see the best of the character come out one last time. A moment that resonates with the audience after their death. A moment that makes their death feel like a reflection of them. Feel like an extension of their character. This is Tony's hero moment. This moment where he looks Thanos dead in the eye and announces himself with conviction, with pride, and finished off one of the greatest foes this universe has ever faced. How else could Tony die? How beautiful to hear this
I am Iron Man.
come out of Tony's mouth one more time. With conviction, again, he is Iron Man, and that's how he should go out. And yet the Russos did one better, by literally dimming Tony's light on the world, by visually articulating the end of Tony and the end of the Iron Man. His suit was as much a part of him as what was underneath, as Tony says a few seconds earlier, and having the last shot of Tony alive be a shot of that light dimming until it's out, feels like the way Tony should go out. Feels like the last thing we should see. It's a death and a moment, both of them, that are totally unique to the character, to his story, to his journey. They're moments that can't be transplanted onto anyone else. They're informed by him. They're hero moments done right. And that leads to maybe the most important element of a good film death, their fictional world's reaction to it. How many times in a film franchise or television series have you seen a respected character die, and the world stop for a moment, and then kind of immediately start spinning right after, as though the moment evaporated from existence in just seconds? Or worse yet, it's used as a ploy to give a character something to do, to act as motivation. How many times have you seen a death cheapened by creators that use these things as narrative tools that don't feel as though they respect the journey the character had taken up until then? The fourth and maybe most important element of a good death is, again, the way the world treats it. Tony's passing isn't a tool used to manipulate character growth or manipulate the audience. It isn't there to create some exorbitant dramatic decision within another character in the film's final moments. Instead, it's just a moment that leads to this. It's a moment that creates a somber reflection, a quiet slice of surprising stillness. It's a moment that brings everyone together to take in the final seconds of this decade-long saga in Tony's honor. It's a moment that treats Tony with the respect the character deserves. A world that treats Tony's death with the respect it deserves. A moment that leads to true human reaction, mourning, celebration of life. Every reaction is reasoned. It's authentic. It's a reflection of the viewers' feelings. We're sad, but as everyone here knows, Tony died a hero. And we want to see him surrounded one last time by his friends. We want to see love. And that's what we get. The Russos managed to articulate the very thing we, the audience, should probably be feeling. Is Tony's death the best on-screen death of all time? No. But it is well done in the pantheon of franchises and film sagas. It is memorable. It understands the character better than most film deaths I've seen in movies and franchises of this nature. Superhero films, action sagas, fantasy series all have trouble making death matter. When everyone is a hero, it's hard to humanize the moment that becomes meaningless. The moment their power is gone, the moment their strength no longer matters, because it's usually what's defined them to some extent. Marvel may be starting fresh, a new chapter, but through a series of moments, these moments, Marvel made sure that millions will never forget Tony Stark. They made sure that they honored this character's legacy, that his world will never forget and will always be impacted by his light, even after it goes out. And that's how you kill your character. That is it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed this video, guys, press that like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, also press subscribe. That way you don't miss anything I put out. Next to the subscribe button, by the way, is a little notification bell. Pressing that helps me a lot. It just makes sure you actually are notified when I upload. So that means you actually see my videos, which is great. So press that little notification bell as well. And as always, on your screen right now are 2 more episodes of Nerdstalgic. If they're not here, they're on the little sidebar. So click one of those to see more of what I've done recently, and I will see you guys in the next video.